All right, guys, let's talk grout. One of the most important things when getting ready to do grout is prepping the substrate, prepping the tile. That means cleaning grout lines, maybe vacuuming out the grout lines, means wiping down with a sponge a second, third time, making sure that the tile is absolutely clean, cleared of debris, of mortar, and ready to take on that grout and to leave you a nice clean finish. So before any of this stuff comes out, you want to make sure that your tile here is really clean. You also want to make sure that it is set where it can stay forever. So if you have a tile you don't like, you want to go ahead and pull that out if you have the option to do so. We ran in-floor heat in this one, so we really want to make sure we get it set right the first time, so we're not trying to pull those tiles out and do repairs prior to grout. So now that you got your tile all cleaned and clear and you're ready to start getting ready to grout, you want to pick out your grout. We're going with a Map-I all-in-one. It is a cocoa color. Now this is a rapid setting grout, so that rapid setting isn't necessarily exactly from when you mix it, although that time does start then, but it is once the grout does start setting, all of it is setting really quick. So you want to make sure if you do get the rapid setting grout, you can get everything grouted, get everything cleaned off, and once it starts setting up, you're not trying to pull excess off of the tiles or off of the grout lines. It becomes a really big deal when you are setting a tile like a slate or anything that has a texture in it where that grout can kind of tend to get stuck down in those grooves. Anytime you're doing a tile like that, I recommend kind of hitting it with a sponge right before you grout it. That way it'll have less chance of actually setting up on top of that tile. It'll give you more time to get it wiped off and get it cleared. The nice thing about this grout also is that it's kind of got like a pre-sealer in it, or some type of resistance in it, so you don't have to seal it if you don't want to. We like that, to where we don't have to come back. If we are able to just finish grouting, we get off the job site, we don't have to worry about coming back just to seal. You're going to need a couple other tools. Sponge is nice to have, the grout float, and then I use this kind of like a mop bucket for tile. It's got a like perfectly square, nice dense foam pad, and then this bucket here, you just fill it up with water just above this tray line, and then you can kind of push your foam pad down against that grate to get the foam cleared out when you're wiping the grout away, and then you can dry it off right here on these rollers. This is a finishing product, and this would be a right after you wipe with the grout float, this is the product we'll use. So the sequencing that we like to use for grout is, go ahead and mix the bag in a clean bucket and have a clean water bucket ready to go as well. When mixing the grout, you never want to put the full bag in to start off with. You want to start, I like to start with, if you think you're going to use the whole bag, like 90%. And then put your, how much water you're going to need in, and then the bag. Because if you put a little too much water, you can add that 10% of the grout into your mix. And then I like to just mix it up to the consistency where it's going to hold its shape, but it's not like runny, falling off of your finger. And it's also not too dry to where it's like almost crumbly. So it should stick you should be able to form things with it like that. So we'll go ahead and take grout. Want to pull out enough to do 5 square feet at a time. You just kind of plop it down on the floor, the grout, and I'll show you once we actually get the grout mixed up. I always like to kind of hold my float at a really steep angle like this, and I'm pushing the grout down into the lines to start off with. Kind of both ways, get it down into the lines as much as possible. Since these are a hexagon tile, I'm going to kind of have to hit it in all directions. If you're doing a square tile, you can really just even come at two angles and you're probably good. So I like to push it down in first and then kind of come back through and do a light pass over the top at more of like a 45 angle. And what I'm doing there is just trying to leave that grout line full on both sides. We're going to go ahead and just take our grout float, grab a bunch of grout out, put it on the floor. Now, this is kind of where I was saying I like to just start off by just going any and all directions at a steep angle, just shoving it into the grout lines here. So it's not about being pretty or even or anything. It's just about getting all the lines filled with grout. And at this point, once you have started putting grout in the floor, you really hope this is the color of grout the homeowners wanted. Because at this point, too late. So there, I've kind of got this little area here for demonstration purposes. It's all filled. All the lines are filled. So then at that point, I'm going to come back at kind of a cross angle like this, where I'm not going to like get stuck in one of the grout lines. Like here, if I'm pushing too much on the front, I'll hit that grout line and it'll pull a bunch of the grout out. So I just go back over it the other way and fill it back up. So gonna go around and it'll finish like that. And then to go ahead and shape the lines, you'll just take your clean sponge and just rub around in a circle like this, or down the wall at an angle, come across the back, go back the other way. Now here you can see it's kind of pulling up on here a little bit, and because it's filling the sponge, it's starting to dry up a little bit, and then that's where you can flip over the other side, and you can tell when you're doing it that there's moisture now. So that whole area now is pretty much shaped and ready to just sit for a little bit longer until we're ready to send the final float through. And then you just kind of do that over and over and over until you got all of the grout put on. Once I get that section done, that 5 square feet or so, I'm coming back with this sponge here, and I'm just doing a real light rub down of that area that I put the grout on. Now what that does is it's called shaping the grout lines. It's a really important step. It makes sure that if you do have a void here or there, it'll fill it in and kind of smooth it out so you have kind of a nice flat surface from one tile to the next filled with grout. So that step, shaping, really important. Once you shape it, or when you shape it, you're not trying to pull grout off of the floor necessarily. You just want everything even. So you're going to find that this sponge will fill up with grout fairly fast. And I like to just do it until the floor kind of looks like it's drying up a little bit as I'm rubbing it. So I'll rub an area, and then if I have to, I'll just flip it over to get the clean side. Rub an area until everything is smooth and consistent, or my float is starting to dry out, in which case I'll put it in the water bucket, rinse it off, and continue until I get that square footage done that I did with the grout float. Once you get past that, once you shape the grout line, it's really a matter of waiting. Now, this time of waiting is kind of something you got to get a feel for, or I have to get a feel for as an installer, of how much I could think I can get done in a certain amount of time to move through the whole project, to get through all of the grout that I've mixed up before it is setting. So I want to, whatever I mix up, I want to be able to get all of that laid into the tile and clean back up before that rapid setting starts happening. Once I got a pretty good section done, or I know I've got time to finish out my grout bucket, I'll go ahead and come back to the start with this brush, or this sponge now. And all I'm doing is making one light pass over the top of the tile. So when this thing sets down on the tile, I'm not moving it back and forth like this. This one I will. I'm trying to move it back and forth. This one, it goes down, one clean swipe. It doesn't matter which way, other than if you can, come diagonally across the grout lines. So if your grout lines are vertical, coming right at you, I'd be coming from like the back to the front, or vice versa. If you come straight down the grout line, you'll have a chance of cleaning out the grout line with the sponge, where a piece of it will go down in there, and then you'll have a little dip in your grout line, and you don't want that. So the best way to resist that is to go at a diagonal angle of your grout line. So on this floor, there's nothing I can really do other than control the pressure at which I push on it, because I've got so many lines around the hexagons. So I'm going to set it down, real nice even pressure, and I'm going to pull to whatever point I need to for that area. Sometimes you can do a bigger pass, sometimes you got to do a smaller pass. It just depends on the tile you're working with, how long after you've laid the grout, a couple different things. Once I do that one pass, it's going in the bucket here. I'm cleaning that sponge off above the grate, and then I rinse it out. Now when you rinse it out, if you are using one of these buckets, you want to really push down on it. You want to get all that water out. If you don't get the water out, when you go to set it down on the tile, it will actually ooze a little bit of water out, and it actually will make it harder for that grout to finish setting up, or it could bleed into the grout line and actually bleed some of the color out of the grout. It's not as much of an issue doing floor tile. It can be an issue doing wall tile in a shower, where you push too much against the wall and then water runs down your grout line, and then you're wiping that grout line again. And then if you do that too many times, it will pull color out of the grout. And that's pretty much it as far as the grout process goes. It's a matter of having everything clean, getting the grout on the floor, shaping your lines, coming back with your final pass, and cleaning the tile off. Now remember, we want to get grout into the lines. We're not trying to take grout out once we get the grout in there. So a nice tile job will have nearly smooth finish across it. There might be a tiny little divot on each one of those grout lines. And then at the very end, there is a process called removing haze. A lot of grouts, when you get it all cleaned off and it dries, there'll be a little bit of haze on the tile. You can just come back over with a microfiber towel, or a towel once the grout is set, and you can walk on it. You can just come back, do a light wipe down, and that haze will come off. That's about it for installing grout. If you have any questions that I didn't cover here in the video, leave them in the comment section. If you like content like this, let me know. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll make some more videos. We'll see you on the next one.